We all love goal setting and having big ideas for our future. Yet things don't always go to plan. This depressing future reality of failure is not due to poor imagination or bad ideas. It's actually due to a lack of awareness in the present moment of what you should be doing. Richard Feynman stated that the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Today, we're going to break out of our daydreaming and create a reality that we actually want. Hello, and welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast. I am Sam Webster Harris, and it's great to be in your ears today. I dived into this subject because I wanted to understand my own failures and the silly reasons why completely possible plans for my future just don't always seem to happen. Ultimately, most of our failures come down to a detachment from reality. This lack of awareness appears in two major ways: unrealistic ideas of what is actually going to happen, and number two, not being ready for the moment when it's happening. So that's poor appreciation that I'm now here in the specific moment I'd imagined in my future where I would do something different. So number one, unrealistic ideas. In our minds, we see success and happiness coming at us really fast and more easy than happens in reality. Our imagination is lovely, but reality is slower and full of mundane, unexciting stuff. The experience of the journey is duller than we imagine, and the destination can be short-lived, and we might find it was actually something we didn't even want that much. Realizing that an idea wasn't actually what we wanted is usually the moment where it fails. And if you see my past episodes on journey versus destination or dreaming versus doing in the backlog, you can get a full lowdown on this concept. But the even bigger thing that I'm going to really tackle in this episode is this. Number two, not being ready for the moment. Now, awareness is really elusive. The fact that you are here in this very moment that you had planned for just slips us by in our day-to-day. Why? Well, the things in your mind when it's telling you what you're going to do in the future is actually there to make you feel good. It isn't necessarily meant to really change your life in the future. Those thoughts give you the feeling that your future will be great, which means that any current problems with the situation in your life right now, they're fine because you'll deal with them later. And whether it was a diet that you're going to start or a career break after hitting a milestone, those are ideas that make whatever you're doing now feel okay. They validate the current scenario and they tell you that it's not a problem and it's not something you need to fix. Furthermore, the cost or benefit today of doing this different action is actually kind of negligible. The difference between going for a run or having a single donut right now on any given day is genuinely not going to impact tomorrow. So the impact of these habitual choices, it just isn't directly in front of us. That means it's easy to put these things off for your future plans when it will be easier. But when that moment in the future becomes today, you're supposed to be doing something different. And what actually happens in reality is the same as before for several reasons. We don't realize that the sensations of reality will have more pain in them. You weren't so hungry in that future moment when you were going to be eating less. And right now, it's nicer to quiet that hunger monster by maybe starting the diet tomorrow and eating right now. And other times reality is scarier. In our imagination, we were brave enough to casually approach that good-looking person and we had something really clever to say. But right now, currently feeling a little bit shy, awkward, no clever words are coming to my mind, which has just gone completely blank. And so you sit there quietly unnoticed. Or another reason is that you might just be too busy to make your ideas happen. Carving out that magical hour for your writing practice or exercise, it just slips by to the next year because everything is so hectic right now. There's so many demands on your time. And quickly, this year has just become a write-off. And we decide next year will be the one where we get our head down and carve out that hour for ourselves. And then other times we just simply forget that we're going to do something different. It doesn't even register that we were supposed to be doing something that was different. Like that time I was meant to become fluent in Spanish that just has never appeared and it hasn't happened. And what's annoying is that there's no physical limit stopping you. It's just so frustrating because there's nothing actually in the way of making those ideas happen. It's really just yourself. And it's not something that's even difficult for yourself to do. It's mostly just a lack of planning, a lack of knowing what to do and when, a lack of then making room to go and do the thing, and finally, a lack of an accountability with a lack of a deadline where you have to be held accountable to. So for me, those fantasy ideas which fail is mostly because I just don't know where the start line is or where to fit something in with all the other things that are going on. And it does take a while to adjust to a new state. For example, I've been writing a newsletter now for 30 weeks and it's only just started to feel unsurprising that I'm writing it each week, and other things that I plan in my head to do that can be more elusive just remain out of touch for a long time until I really make them happen, like athletic challenges or starting my YouTube. I had to really sit down and be like, shit, when am I actually doing this, and make it happen? Because those things are purely my responsibility and no one else is involved that will help me get there. Ultimately, everything that is required to make the jump from your imagination to reality is on your plate. And if you've never done it before, it's hard to actually imagine or plan for what it really entails. That leads to bad planning or no planning, which makes it hard to make those things happen in the moment that they should be happening in. And time just continues to fly by as you wonder why your goal is just a similar distance away to where it was before. And there is this mysterious gap in between your current state and arriving at that destination, because no one tells you what to do. There's no accountability or any real external reminder or reference because it's all in your head. And finally, there's just no momentum on doing it. The more that you do something, the easier it gets. And things will improve once you've started making some headway and you've done it a few times, and you'll know where it's going to fit into your day or week, and you can make a clever schedule around where it should get done. Also, people will then find out that you're doing it because you're actually doing it, and it becomes part of your identity. Like, I literally am a person who writes a newsletter. And so if someone asks me what are the things that I do mention sometimes that I write a newsletter, and it increases my accountability, and everyone that's on it is increasing the amount of reasons I have each week to send it. And so it has gathered momentum. Right. So I've set up all of the kind of problems that you're dealing with and why we struggle to actually get these ideas in our heads into reality. And we're now halfway through the podcast. After the break, we can find out all of my favorite solutions to start making shit happen. Right. So how do I make sure that I start these ideas in my head and make real progress? Number one, get it out of your head. Relying on any mental notes or ideas is a total fail. Just don't let it happen. When things are in your brain, it doesn't actually see all the flaws that are hidden there. And the older that I become, the more afraid I am of anything that my mind tells me without having it written down and really seeing it in the light of day. So firstly, write down the idea, then try and put a schedule around it where it just has to happen and tell people that you're doing it. And finally, make sure you allocate at least 4 times more time than you expect to make it happen. And you might have to cut something out of your day. The only thing stopping you from doing anything is yourself. So you have to make sure that you're telling yourself that it is happening and work out what to sacrifice. Number 2, cohort learning. Now, if you've tried starting a task or idea a few times and find yourself just failing, I'd really recommend joining a cohort of other people doing the same thing. And yes, it does cost some money, but when you're on a cohort, they will give you a schedule around what you already want to be doing that you have to follow. So you have a start line, you have targets and accountability, and it's like signing up for a marathon, but in a skill or whatever it is that you want to have. Whilst you're doing it, you have a bunch of peers around you on the same journey who you're helping, they're helping you, and it's just adding more accountability. You're pushed to move faster and harder than you would do by yourself. And also, they answer the really important questions that you have of, what do I do now? Which is often the moments where you're like not sure what to do next, and you just leave it unanswered and like it pushes to next week. And when you can get those questions answered, it really stops you from falling off and it helps you keep momentum. Now, a cohort won't do the work for you, but they make you aware that you're here right now in the moment that you need to do that job. You can't hide behind the flaws of your elusive ideas that this will be easier to start tomorrow. It needs to be done now. I'll put some links in the show notes of my favorite cohorts for things like writing, starting a YouTube or podcasting. My next tip is coaching. This is a really great option by having a weekly call with a coach who will quiz you about all of your private plans. They'll sit with you, they'll write out these plans, they'll check on your progress. It's very simple and very effective. And if you're on a budget, you honestly don't need an expert coach to solve most of your problems. Most of the answers all lie within you. You just need a coach who isn't a complete idiot and listens to you and asks good questions. If you are trying to do something that's monumentally difficult or really out of your skill set, then I would advise paying for a really good coach. But honestly, most things that are wrong with your life could be fixed with a very budget coach. Also note that if your issues are very personal and to do with your history, you might want to instead find a therapist who can help you overcome your problems rather than a coach. Right. Next tip, accountability groups. Now, if you don't have the money to pay for anything else, you can always start a group with some friends for free. And you need to find some friends that are on a similar sort of path to you who want to fix the thing that you're trying to do. And start a small group, and I would say no more than 5 people, where you lay out your plans together and you need them to be genuinely interested in helping you achieve your goal and what you want to do with your life. And in return, you need to be genuinely interested in the people in your group. The good thing is this is completely free. The bad thing is because it's free and it's with your friends, it is the easiest one to slide into the not quite happening box. And you really need to plan an actual catch up each week to keep track of each other's goals. And if you don't, it just falls off the radar because, these people are busy. You're busy. There's no money on the line. There's no sense of urgency. Like, oh God, must be done this week. Whereas with a coach, they're going to set a calendar. You paid for their time each week, but your mate, they have a life to get on with. So really make sure you're taking it seriously if you use an accountability group. And you can also up the stakes by using the Stick app. That's Stick, spelled STICKK. The Stick app, where you put money on the line each day or each week for a task that you want to do. And if you don't do it, that money gets paid to a charity or an anti-charity. And if you do it, you get to keep all of your money and it stays free. So it just helps add some accountability and should stay free because you should actually commit to doing the thing you're going to do. My final sort of alternative thing that you might not be doing already is future letters to yourself. There's a great website called future.me where you can send a letter to yourself in a week, 6 months, a year, 5 years. And it's just really insightful into showing you how you think and giving you an insight on yourself and being more aware of reality. Because in the private email to yourself, you can really put yourself out there. You can talk about your crazy dreams, your expectations for the future. You can really say what you desire, what you want to do, what you're expecting. And then when you receive that in a year's time, having forgotten what you put, you're going to be a lot wiser. Lots of things will have happened in your year. And you'll read this crazy email from yourself about what you're dreaming about. And you'll be like, whoa. You'll see the massive naivety you had in some areas. You'll see what turned into massive failures. And you'll have a good idea of why. And it'll just help add a real sense of what you succeed in and what you keep on failing in that you just will miss in the day to day if years just slide by without you noticing. And having things like that just really adds awareness to your reality, which is what this episode is about. Now, finally, there's just a few other ones that I'm pretty sure you're probably aware of by now, but things like meditating each day is a great way to keep yourself more in reality. And again, journaling is something that people keep on talking about. If you write about your thoughts every day, you're going to really introspect and get your ideas onto paper. Another one is just putting time blocks in your calendar for the things that you want to do so it can't get filled up with other meetings or other things, and sticking to it. And goal tracking. That one, obviously your goal setting, but goal tracking is the act of checking in regularly, each day, each week, each month on those goals and seeing what you're doing actively towards making them happen. And it's really important. And finally, booking events such as signing up to a marathon so you just have to bloody go running, And I thought I would just mention them just to nudge you that if you know you should be doing them, here's a reminder that you should be doing them. So there's plenty of ways to keep yourself aware of what reality is and be within it. I hope these ideas helped you, and let me know if you use anything else to stop your imagination getting the better of you, because I'm always open to new ideas. Have an epic day and week. And remember, if you want to enjoy your life, that starts with enjoying today.